You name it, and games have been blamed for it, so it's not too shocking that game bans have followed in force. For the children, I suppose. Although, I'm not sure how many children are picking up The Witcher or Command & Conquer. Put it down, Timmy! Sometimes the reasons are understandable, but other times they're just weird. Here are 7 games that got the ban hammer and the reasons behind it. Mark Echo's Getting Up, Contents Under Pressure. Banned in Australia for glorifying street art. Let's be honest, it could have been banned for having such a shit title, but the real reason is that it appears some countries can't handle a little rampant vandalism these days. Over in Australia, Mark Echo's Getting Up, Contents Under Pressure was refused classification based on the idea that it glorified graffiti. I mean, it does, sure, since its entire premise is that a youth from a bad part of town uses the power of street art to take down rival gangs. Like, that'll work. As you can probably tell, the plot was a bit silly and kind of outside the realm of believability. Still, Australian censors thought that this game would act as a gateway to the righteous world of tagging, so it was never rated. Command & Conquer Generals. Banned in China for destroying China. Command & Conquer Generals did not do well in China, for the same reason that kneecapping Lady Liberty would likely be a flop in the US. Not only does the game's China campaign open on the nuclear obliteration of Beijing, yeah, that's a good start, but the player is directly involved in the destruction of Chinese landmarks like the Hong Kong Convention Centre and the Three Gorges Dam. Not only did the government in China promptly bring down the ban hammer, which they've done to games for less, but even Chinese gamers who went to the trouble of pirating the title weren't too pleased with it, mostly because you have the option of bombing Tiananmen Square into rubble. Fallout 3. Banned in Australia for encouraging drug use. You'd think in a dystopian wasteland where danger lurks around every corner and pain is a constant companion, you could get away with taking a few much needed hits of vitamin M. Not so, say censors in Australia, who briefly refused classification of Fallout 3 due to the player character's use of morphine. Don't remember that part? That's because the developers changed the game entirely to account for these complaints, taking out morphine in every region and replacing it with Med-X, which has the exact same effects, of course. The good news is that ultimately the ban was lifted. Dead Rising 3, banned in Germany for having human-like enemies. Germany wins the blue ribbon for Europe's most intense game restrictions. While changing a human into a zombie can get a game to pass muster in the likes of the UK or France, it will have no such luck in Germany. And given that Dead Rising 3 is all about zombies, it's no surprise that this series has seen repeated bans in Germany, all of which led to Dead Rising 3 being expunged from the Xbox One launch lineup there. This pretty goddamn violent zombie thrasher is considered tolerable in many places since your main target are fantasy legions of undead monsters. However, Germany's gaming police place heavy restrictions on games where you kill human or human-like enemies, so zombies qualify. Then again, Gears of War 3 was deemed acceptable without edits, so I can't really pretend to understand the logic here. Mass Effect, banned in Singapore for lesbianism. Finally, a game that wasn't banned over political outrage, just lesbian sex. Wait, was that better or worse? Either way, back in 2007, Singapore banned the first Mass Effect because it contained an optional scene of Lady Shepard and Liara getting busy. The ladies kissing and caressing translated to gratuitous sex in Singapore, which barred it from release. Not that the ban lasted long. Originally, it went through because the nation did not have a proper video game rating system, making it harder to judge the degrees of debauchery. However, when the ban shockingly resulted in backlash, officials used the country's movie rating system instead, dubbing Mass Effect an M18 and lifting the ban only a few days after setting it. Bully, banned in Brazil for taking place in a school. A lot of adults out there want to protect children from anything ugly, sad or unpleasant, because being able to effectively face conflict is overrated. In their righteousness, moral guardians worldwide focused their rage on Rockstar's Bully in 2006, calling for bans across the globe. Most fell through because of that whole freedom of arts thing, but attempts in Brazil were eventually effective. According to Rio Grande do Sul prosecutor Alcindo Bastos, the big issue with Bully is that it takes place inside a school, and that is not acceptable, which conveniently sidesteps the fact that the focus of the game is about giving bullies a taste of their own medicine, but fine, whatever. Football Manager 2005, banned in China for recognising Tibet's independence. Video games deal with serious political topics, yeah? BioShock addresses political objectivism, Watch Dogs tackles security in a digital age, Football Manager rallies against Chinese imperialism. Oh, you didn't know that? Well, that's what China seemed to think anyway when it banned the sports game for including certain conquered regions in the country roster. In the English release of the title, Taiwan, Hong Kong and Tibet are all recognised as independent nations you can choose to play. That sort of pissed off the Chinese government, which responded with a ban in 2004, claiming that the game threatened sovereignty and territorial integrity. Publisher Sega responded with a statement that the feature was never supposed to be seen by audiences in China and was going to be removed for the Chinese release, but bootleggers got hold of the English version too early. So there you go. Confused? So are we. There are of course loads of other games that could have been on this list, but for far more sensible reasons like extreme violence. Looking at you, Manhunt. But let us know if you have any other suggestions in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more gaming news, reviews, previews and features right here on Games Radar Plus.